Hi everyone. Having fun today. Market was down, and so how many of you start purchasing your stock? So now Chandrasekhar, he will be joining very soon. Let me give you a little bit background about him. We have been started. I know him from my MS Finance days. So I was there in Hyderabad for my MS Finance, and he was there. And very dynamic personality. And when he came to our class, I still remember the mathematics the teacher that the dean of our university has stuck in some kind of mathematical formula, and this guy who came recently and immediately stood there and he corrected the formula, and he gave a loud clap after that. And he was first time he was noticed, and he is very talented and everybody loves him. And I got an opportunity to work with him together in one investment bank in Jeffries, and together we worked along 1 year, and then he went to a consulting, move around the world. So he's been in US, Germany, and he's in marginal acquisition expert. He's also in the industry analyst. He know about the industry. I get a lot of insight. I get a lot of insight about a kind of technology going forward, and he's working in the Big Four. I hope he has already joined. So let him uh, take him as a panelist. Okay, great. So I'm really fortunate he get time. He's really busy, and he give a good insight about manufacturing, how things is going. So I request Chandrasekhar to connect. Yes, Chandrasekhar, can you please switch on your camera if possible?
Sure, why not?
Okay, so
Give me a moment.
Chandrasekhar, yes. Also, you can introduce a little bit about yourself as well.
Sure. Thanks, Saikat, for introducing me. I see there's no necessity for exaggerating of my college days achievement
Hmm.
and talks. But let's move ahead. I'm Chandra, part of EY for almost 10 years, and being in the industry for almost 16 to 18 years, where uh, help various investment bankers to run the deals. And here at EY, I am primarily helping clients for post merger integrations and divestitures related deals. And apart from that, most of our consulting projects are related to the value creations for multinational companies. So there my jobs are associated. And apart from consulting, I spent roughly 6 years into corporates, where totally into automotive ancillary manufacturing firms, and all over the places in India I worked. And then through EY I traveled a lot across the world for related to my job. So that's about me. And happy to uh, discuss a lot about me and the things that will come across. So,
So today we're going
so I
to discuss about the manufacturing, and he will give the insight about the manufacturing industry, and why it is considered to be a next multiplier. So you guys are ready? Please type yes in the chat box. Now we're going to go to the next step. So please type yes in the chat box if you are excited, ready. Yeah, I can see yes. So they are welcoming you. Now please go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. So now, before going ahead into the industry, as you see, your first slide is coming for the GDP. So I wanted to know how many of you are already been an economy student, or do a lot of economy analysis. Just give up a thumbs up or yes, no, if you are familiar or have done economy analysis in the past.
Please type me in the chat box if you have done economy analysis, or you definitely yes. Ananda is, and he is an already an I think you have done your master in econometrics in MA, so I hope you already know that. So yeah, so people are doing that. No, not much. Yes. So
Right.
mixed response. Yes.
No worries. The talk is
Mhm.
going to be very basic that we are going to do, and I believe all of you are belongs to a trading community, so you guys must love to see the charts, and must be analyzing charts on your day to day basis. So just try to spend a couple of minutes here to see India's GDP, uh, the historical GDP, and then last couple of 4 lines, 3 lines, the bar that is talking about the 10 years forecast. So I always wondered when I was in my early stage of my research career, then I saw all the graphs that is going like little slightly upwards, and then when it talks about next 10 years, it is like exponential growth. So what I always thought about it, like if investment banker has to forecast for next 10 years, they can do anything. Nobody is going back after 10 years to check whether your forecast is right or wrong. So whatever comes to your mind, just put there, and and your analysis will follow that. So that was my initial hypothesis, but then over the period, whenever how as long as I was getting expertise in the areas, and then I came to know the real meaning of the exponential growth. So we all know, right? The GDP is growing, and then the moment you see there is like slightly till 2006, there was slight growth, and then 8 onwards you see there is a little upward trends, and that trend is going forward till 2024, and then for next 10 years, like 34 I'm talking about, this 3.57 is going to roughly around 8.9 trillion, 9 trillion economy, and that is translate into 2.5 times growth. And why this is happening? Because we already reached a threshold, I will say a big milestone of $2,000, $2,500 per capita income. And when you all been observed at some point of time, whenever you have like money that can take care of your necessities, and slightly you are going little ahead of that inflow, then the expenditure will go like anything. So you have your your income is taking care of your basic needs, and then when it crosses, then probably many of us are like careless about their expenditure, and they go like anything. And that is what happening in India. You see the consumer sector is going up, and everybody is after that, if you go and try to book a automotive, you have a waiting period of 1 year, and at times more than that. So that kind of economy we are in, and we are witnessing today. And if this will continue, then this 9 trillion economy is not far behind. And also, if we are talking here GDP, so GDP uh, in India, like we are segregated in three parts, like we all know, like 60% is coming from your service, more than 60%, and then 40% around is coming from agri and the industrials. So today we are going to talk about manufacturing, but let's little bit talk about what is happening in these two other verticals. So for agriculturals, like we have a land, we are like full of um, we are the place like where we have a lot of agricultural land, but then we are totally dependent on God's nature's rainfall, and then at certain areas we have flood like situations, drought and everything. So we at times we are witnessing those things, and at times we are having excessive rainfall, and that is hampering our agriculture sector. Though we are little bit going ahead with the vertical and horizontal farming, putting scientist data and everything into agriculture, but then mostly we see that the seeds technologies, the fertilizers, or we are dependent from imports. So that sector is like roughly 15-16% of the total GDP, but then there is a lot more to do there, and they have their own pros and cons. Some point of time we are doing good, we are producing good, but then European countries and US countries is not welcoming our exports. So there is a different level of challenges out there, but then uh, it has its own concern. So I'm leaving that apart. Service is like 60%, and everything is going there, and we are already doing good job there, and it's typically export oriented. So whenever if there is anything happening across the world, it impacts us. Now coming to the third vertical, that is industrials. And industrial is like they have a lot of things, mining, metals and everything. But now focusing on manufacturing, this is the place where I see the future is, because what is happening here in India, we are the one of the largest consumer. So we have our own hunger to consume whatever you produce, and there is a exponential market, developed countries, and they as they're growing and developing, they don't want to do the manufacturing by themselves. So it's a low income countries who has to produce for a developed country. That's what economics says, and that's what we see all the times. And being it Japan, and translating from US, going everything back to China, and or other Asian countries. So if we go to the next slides, I can we can talk more about what is happening there. So just see on those four countries what is happening in these Asian countries. Like when you have a superpower or a developed economy, what they're trying to do, they don't wish to do the manufacturing by themselves. And there is a reason for that, because what is happening there is, one, they have like the production cost is higher because the manpower is costly there. And then they don't have the manpower to do all the productions. So there is like advanced manufacturing technologies they are using, like robotics and everything, to do the necessity bare minimum. But then mostly they push to these countries to manufacture and then supply to them. Now this data point is all the four countries is very important. What we are going to do, we are not going to read from top, but we are going to read from the bottom. If you see the third line, that is the manufacturing as a percentage of GDP for all these four countries, that is above 20-25%. And if you go one line above, then that is talking about somewhere around roughly 20% on South Korea and Thailand, and then Indonesia and Vietnam, that is like 16 and 17%. Now, what is happening here, if your manufacturing is growing like more than 20-25%, and then your manufacturing is a part of percentage of GDP is more than 15-16%, then what will happen? Your the GDP growth will be boosted up. So to grow your GDP, you have to see how your manufacturing is supporting that growth. And if the manufacturing will grow, then this will translate the overall economy or overall GDP to grow. So this is the one way to look at the data. Happy to answer if you have any questions here. Otherwise, we moving to here. And as we have seen, like there is a GDP growth, and that is translating to the manufacturing growth, that translating to your GDP growth. And what is happening here is, if you see the nominal GVA. Have you heard about GVA? Anyone? I mean,
How
just
many
type.
of you had heard about GBA? Can you please type it over here? What is GBA? So otherwise, we'll not able to understand this slide. Anyone? Cross value added. Okay. So you can answer or I can answer it. Okay.
Okay, no worries. So it's nothing. I mean, you have a GDP. GDP, we know, like all the produce in a one geography or one location, we call it a GDP. And then what we do when we add the subsidies and remove the taxes, then it will give you the the no, GVA, the gross value add. And then I then you also see there is a nominal GVA versus real GVA. Now, what is happening in the nominal gross value is you have like all the cost included there. But if you talk about the real, the what is happening, you removing the cost of raw materials there. So exact end product, for example, if a car is costing 10 lakhs and they have like components also added in it, so we are not adding cars separately and all the components together, it will boost up. So it's just the end product value that is coming into the real GVA. So now going back to the first graph, do you see that this is 10 years average? So 10 years is the nominal GVA is like roughly 10%. Manufacturing is slightly lower. But what is happening? The trends in the last 1 year, it almost 8.5% and 8%, right? And then once we talk about the real thing, the real numbers, then you see that the manufacturing is going roughly around 10%, and your real GVA is like only 7.5 7%. So that's, we have seen the change happening here. Past 10 years, the GVA is higher than the manufacturing is slowly picking up, and in terms of the real value, this is way higher than your GVA. And now let's again talk about why manufacturing is so important to the GDP. We have seen in the first slide, like there is 2.5 times growth that we are looking at or anticipating in last next 10 years. Now, what is happening if that 2.5% growth we envisaging, we need to have like 3.5%, 3 and 6% growth for manufacturing industry. And then the why I'm talking that, see how this will work. Once the consumer is ready to buy more, the business has to produce more. And since our demand is growing, so you have to set up a additional plant, additional resources, additional technology to cover that demand. And for that, you need more capital. And if you invest more there, then the government is also jump in, and they will also help you with their several performance linked PLI schemes, subsidies, to boost that. We have recently seen semiconductor industry, government is coming way forward to do that. EV, they came already 5 years, 10 years back to help industry to grow with the large amount of tax subsidies there. So the so that a- and once that the demand is there, the business is producing more, setting up more investment for that, government is helping with their policies, and the FDIs, the government is also welcoming the FDI to the sector, and that is boosting up, that is helping to set up altogether the new infrastructure, you know and that will have a multiplier impact. So we are not just talking about the more demand and will supply more. What we are talking about, there is a higher demand. To fulfill that, we are setting up a new business or new uh, you know uh, capacity, and they're also infusing the new technology, and combining all together, this will this is going to see the results of giving you the 3.5 times jump in the next 10 years.
I just wanted to add explain the GVA. The GVA is the gross value added, means what the producer actually get value after the raw material. So if raw material cost you 10 lakh, so he it add 2 lakh additional, so that is their value. And you can see their producer value is actually increasing year on year, and it will continue to increase. So they will be very much incentivized if they invested and grow the manufacturing sector. This is an one additional point to look at this chart. Okay, so I'm going to the next part. Now it's very important to understand that we have seen the how the economic parameters. Now we'll be divided this slide into three things, and any industry to grow we need to see in a 3 point. So one is the what is the big opportunity for a domestic country, then we talk about the competitive advantage and what is the government initiative. Okay, so Chandra, you can explain this one better.
Yeah, exactly. As we are talking about, before also. So what is happening is like the demand. So we have seen like per capita income is growing, and so everybody is going after iPhone or a expensive SUV car. So the demand has grown up, and what is happening, that is translating into your economies of scale. Now, what is happening, if you have seen a kid, a small kid, we crawling kid, if we try to help him to walk, we hold his both hands and help them to walk. The moment kid has started walking, you leave his hand and he will start running, you know and once you leave his hand, he will fall a couple of times, but then he learned the walking. And it is the shortest phase that I have ever seen in any child's growth. Started walking, you leave his hand, he will start running. And this is what is happening when your economy at certain point reach. All you have to do, just give little boost up. The moment you won't give the boost up, like all the subsidies, all the benefits from the government and everything, it will crawl. The moment these catalyst you will add to that, it will start walking, and once it will start walking, it will start running. So the moment, why I'm talking about this, you have the economy is getting opened up. The moment you pull back all those benefits, what happens, certain companies will fall down. You open the economy for the world, and then everything will happen. The free trade will happen, the peers will come around the world. They have better infrastructure or technology. You have to compete with that, and the moment you are competing with that, the quality of product is on par of that, and that helps in our exports quality, and that is again going to be exponentials. So that's the amount of volume we are talking about. Once this is going up from here, and that is what happening. The competitive advantage, if you see the India, the like China plus one policy, we I won't say we are getting 100% of China plus one is like China and India, but then yes, we have seen the success stories with the iPhone, with the chip makers. Everyone is coming to India and setting up. Of course, we have like those three, four countries, Taiwan, Vietnam, and those countries are there to grab some of the opportunity. But then India is the place of young population. We have good educational institutions here to supply the workforce. We are all tech savvy workforce, so we have like technology coming in and helping us to really adopt those technologies in our workplace or our productions capacity, anything. So that is there. And then we have seen the India is like the startup phase. In past 5 to 10 years, we have seen all the unicorn is coming every another
So we'll come to
day,
that in
month
the
or weeks.
in the later slide. We'll
I
look at the.
want to ask our community members one simple question. Can you give a example of a industry where we were crawling just even 5 to 10 years before, and now we are competing with the world? Can anybody take a name of our industry? Many of you knows. Just software, we are not crawling, sir. Think through. Many of you know.
Defense,
Umesh
right?
ji, spot on. It is defense. Yes. Umesh ji, thank you.
Okay. Mobile yes, we
So
are
Yeah,
defense
mobile
is the
defense.
classic.
manufacturing is also
Mobile
there. Defense.
manufacturing, yes, but Micromax was there though. But defense, we are really crawling just few years before. And now even US is also thinking to buy the shell, their artillery shell from India. And we are exporting the weapons to Israel as well. Yeah, go ahead, Chandu. Sorry.
Okay, so
Exactly.
basically,
No, thanks,
okay.
Chandil, for adding this value. No, this is what happens. We've seen this. Defense sector is the outlay. You see any economy, their outlay is really huge on healthcare, defense, and the world economics. World politics is changing every day. So even the country, they don't need self defense. They don't have any enemies around the border. They also need to be self uh, sufficient to tackle anything in future that may turn to their economy, their land. So that is where the most expenditure is going, governments. And India is now really making a big progress, talking about their tasers and artillery and everything. So we are there to produce and to supply to the world. So yeah. And once that is happening, you have seen how those companies that is supporting them have been grown.
So now we're going to talk about the three things. So the big opportunity, competitive advantage, and your government initiative, how government is helping. So look at first, what is the big opportunity to have a big manufacturing sector in India, and how what are the opportunity helping us to grow? So compared to global, okay. So Chandra, yes, you can continue.
Yeah, exactly. See, again, two charts. The first chart you see is like percentage of GDP, what is happening in India. You have seen like US, Malaysia. Malaysia is like again a smaller economy, but coming to the new percentage, 60% Indian consumptions to the GDP. So the consumptions led economy, I will say. And if we talking about the 5 years, the average growth, so that is also we left behind everyone like China. China is one of the largest in terms of size, is many fold than the Indian economy. And you see like we have like 10% growth on 5 years basis. So that is also one indicator. Uh, you see how long it takes to leave China or other competitors behind if we continue that trajectory. So that is the one thing is important to watch and to see. So there is
So
a
I
growth, even there is bigger
So I have
economy,
another
we are there.
question to the investors. Sorry, Chandu, I'm cutting you short in between.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
So can you guys tell me that which one give you the assurance from protecting your economy from externalities? Is it a consumption-driven economy or is it a export-driven economy? You can mention one or two like that sequence. Okay, I got.
Yeah,
Okay,
yes. So
so
just
the,
I write an equation and you will able to understand. So the economic growth equals to is an y equal to c plus g plus I plus nx. Okay,
mm,
nx is a net import and
mm,
export. Okay,
export, correct.
and India contribute around 60%. Our economic growth is not credit driven, unlike US. US economic growth is a mostly credit driven, so they rely on credit card and all. But our economy is not so credit driven, so we are very solid on our consumption. So, and if you look at last or 5 years, our consumption is growing at a 10 digit. So basically, three sector I am telling you to invest on. One is the consumption and why it is 10% year on year growth is happening. Yes, Chandil, you can
Yeah,
continue.
so just to give a bit of a, Saikat has given you the mathematical explanation. I am giving you the simple, a digestible explanation is that if your economy is a consumption economy, so what you are doing, you are producing foods, goods and services to be in the economics terms. You are generating the goods and services, and those goods and services are being consumed within your country. So what you predominantly does, you actually taking raw materials to produce your goods. If you have a deficiency in terms of raw materials in your country, obviously the from outside of your country, you do import of the raw material. Similarly, you do import of the critical services which you are not generating in your own country. So you are actually taking all these, you are doing more import of those, and you produce those goods and services in your country, and it is getting consumed. So it is remaining in your country. The major challenge with the export driven economy is that here you are eroding your national resources, natural resources, national resources to produce the goods and services to serve other countries' need. And in that case, the gradually, it will not, it in a shorter term, you will see huge surplus of your foreign exchange. But in the longer term, gradually, if you see that, you will see that your natural resources will gradually come down. Similarly, your national resources also gradually come down, and the goods and services that you are generating, since you are exporting those to the outside of the world, so obviously that your own resources are actually serving other countries, not purely yours. So when there is a challenge in the world and the stability is to some extent shaken, first hit it will your economy, and your survivability of the economy is difficult just because you have already eroded your natural and national resources just for export and serving other countries. So that's why consumption driven economy always has a better foothold during the crisis. Export driven economy is always volatile. Chandu, over to you.
No, exactly. Thanks, Chandil. No, what is happening if we are say exporting, for example, India is exporting software, software, a lot of software, primarily to all those developed countries. Now, what happens if something happening there, and the demand is
For
shaken
software,
or hit?
Chandru, we are actually losing our brains just to serve the outside of the country. So
Exactly.
here the national resources are the brains.
Yeah, exactly. And the
Yeah.
dependencies is higher. Anything will happen if you see the cut, anything happening, slowdown in the US, we see the job cuts. The industry is shaken here back in India, and everybody is like scared now. What will happen to our jobs? What will happen to our salaries, bonus? And that is the problem with the export driven economy. You are producing, you are supplying, and anything is happening to the buyer countries, then it will have some impact. And you have seen the market earlier days when if FIIs, FDIs, they are coming back, their profit, booking their profit, going back, taking back the money to the countries, the market getting crashed. Nowadays you see, you have sufficient money to hold back your own financial institutions and the systems.
Okay, so rising export is another thing is happening in India. So you can see 2015 to onwards, our export also started increasing. You can see this has already increased.
Okay,
But
somebody is asking me that in that case we should not do the export, or so I have not said that you should not do the export, but you need to see that where the pivot is in your economy. So the pivot of your economy is on the consumption. So you need to have a balance between your consumption, domestic consumption, and the relevant export to the extent so that it can cover up your required raw material import charges. Just to make it a bit simpler, so you do export to get forex, you are earning forex, right? And using that forex, you are actually paid the bills for your import for the manufacturing in your country. So if you maintain a balance, and if you have, let's say 2 years, yeah, 3 years of import bill paying capability from your forex reserves, you are more or less hedged against the externality. So that's how it has been seen by the economist. So it is not that you should focus only on the domestic consumption. Also, you should not focus that you should only focus on the export. So skewness between these
Any
two, you
economy,
need to maintain a
export,
balance.
any economy, your export is growing, it's good for your economy. Take it from here. Now the problem what happened, if you not adding value to your main product, means like you are just exporting oil and exporting in the market, and you're making use forex reserve. This is not good enough. So a country like, let's say, Switzerland, they do not have resources, but they create a lot of value added product on luxury watches, let's say, cosmetic. They are creating a lot of value. So nothing wrong with that export. So export with a lot of value added. We started in the first slide, value, gross value added. If a product is a very gross value added, not just a raw material, it is already a good for the economy. So in US, if you see, their export in defense, they have been adding a lot of value. Nothing wrong with the export. If Indian economy export is increasing, it is very good for our economy, because we are net, we are a net importer. So it will come down, it will improve our balance of payment. So export is good for an economy. Okay, I am differing from
Exactly. I
both of you,
mean,
and but I'm telling you, export is good for the economy if the product is lot of value added. Okay.
I totally,
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
agreed.
So
If you look at,
value
you know,
addition is gives you the capability to charge premium. The classic example during the Russia-Ukraine war, India was the top supplier of the petroleum-led products, which is developed based on the Russian oils. So Russia, they, I mean, they spared their natural resources to thrive during the war economy time. Since they, I mean, by the size of the country, they definitely have huge natural resources, and that's why still their currency, you can see that have a value. Otherwise, it will entirely damage the economy the way they are actually fighting the Ukraine war for last 2.5 years. But they have not focused on the value added. That opportunity actually being taken by India, China, and other countries. So Russia is fighting their war, but benefits are coming from other countries. But yes, Saikat, that is true. But my suggestion, my thought was that if you need to have a balance of payment positive, because balance of payment positive gives you the uh, capital account convertibility and capital account surplus. But the fact here is that if you do not have the consumption domestically, then there is a probability of trade if the externality
I
is
agree.
not in your
Consumption
favor.
is
Yeah.
required. I'll give you an
So
example
that's why
like,
what when Chandra was
yes.
talking about that software, or somebody mentioned here the software. What is the software? Pure raw material and dependencies. It is the individual skills and the thinking capability. And that is the brains. And that's why India is facing the brain drain. Whosoever working in the software industry is going US, serve there and try to stay back over there because of the lot of other opportunities. But anyways, the key here is that in your economy, you need to have a proper balance between the domestic consumption as well as your export and import balance that is required. Otherwise, would be very difficult.
Okay, so we go to the next slide.
yeah, mostly. And now, before moving to this slide, there we have seen the jump, and that some jump is mostly coming from, you're seeing like 2022 onwards. So one thing is like India is constantly investing in their supply chain, their, extending their supply chain, road infrastructure, and that is helping them to produce things that is, on par and then can serve to the world. So now coming back here, I mean, you see couple of segments that we're talking here, and then the market size of in India, and then which one is the largest market, and then what is the growth that is happening. If you see here, you know the passenger vehicle, even the automotive industry, if you see, we climbed a ladder ahead. We left Japan behind. That is the exponential growth. This is, we're talking about the exponential growth. We are leaving a developed country behind with our one segment of product, that is subsector, that is automotive industries. And then similarly, if you see, the air conditioning, cement industry, steel. Now the cement, steel industry, these industries are something that is needed for to boost our infrastructure. It is also helping, to grow our GDP by 1.5%. If the GDP has to grow, these sectors has to grow rapidly to give the sustainability of GDP growth. Otherwise, if your steel, cement, these will not grow, then your infrastructure will lag behind, and that will hamper the entire
These
economy
are
to grow.
known as core sectors.
Exactly. Chemical, we have, again, the chemical, uh, it's a part of manufacturing, and this is again consumption based. Mostly we consuming here in India, we producing, we exporting, and then roughly around 40-50% we consuming in-house. 50 to 55%, I will say, chemicals that being consumed within the country. Pharma sector, we are going to be a next exporter, because medical equipment we are getting importing, but most of the formulations, the drugs, that we are exporting. So even we are importing the raw material, the API, from China and Germany, but then overall we are exporting formulations and finished doses from India.
Now let's see how our competitive advantage over other close economy. I mean, Indian subcontinent, those who are competitor, and what is our competitive advantage. Okay, so we'll look at our four factors that is important. We call the factor of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. So these are the four factors. We see what we are standing and what is our advantage. Okay, so now, yeah. Then Uh, yeah, Chandrasekhar, you can carry
E-
on.
Yeah, exactly. So if you see here the labor force, you know, what China did, China started opening their economy long back, way before the India did, and there they have like the workforce and the infrastructure to support their production. Now India is, in terms of educated workforce, is there. And again, if you see the competitors, we are far 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 ahead of the competitive landscape, because the developed country wanted to shift their productions to these countries, low cost countries, and they have certain restrictions from China, as they are going ahead with the China plus one. So the India is there to support. And now this is very important to look at the wages. I did a consulting project where we see what is beneficial. Is it setting up a robotic manufacturing unit, or with the supply of people, which is cost effective? Um, Even the robots, if you put the robotic arms into any manufacturing unit, it will cost you $3 to $4 an hour. But and we have the cheaper workforce. Now what happens? India was following that for past decade. We have ample workforce, and so we'll put the workforce instead of investing hugely into the robotics or advanced manufacturing. China did it. China long back they did it. Taiwan did it. Now what is happening in India, we are also now doing it, and we are also advancing our other technologies, 5G, everything, and we are clubbing them together. We are late there, but what we are doing, we are now investing huge into robotic infrastructures, 5G infra, and that is helping us to produce the quality product. If you have like 100 people into assembly line making a product, the the quality of that assembly line, with you have like one robotic arm doing that assembly, that is way faster, better quality, and there we are now heading ahead. So you see that the cost is again lower, right? Now coming back to, if you have to set up a a huge advanced manufacturing capabilities, you have to give them the power. Now if you're talking about the power supply, I had an opportunity to work with the Suzlon before coming back to EY. uh, what we have seen here in India, we still have coal is the major producer, a major source of energy. But sooner or later, we will have renewable energy is going way behind that, and clubbing together, nuclear, your onshore wind, and then solar is taking a leap ahead with different solar plants, on rooftop solars, solar farms, wind farms, onshore, offshore wind. Everything is going there. The wind is capital intensive, little bit more. It take more time to realize, but then these are endless. As we have rich land, so we can use this anywhere and everywhere, and this is helping India to be cleaner, provide the cleaner energy, and also a cost effective rate.
So as the manufacturing is increasing, you need a lot of energy consumption. Without an economy is increasing, if you look at Chinese economy or any growth, economic growth, so Germany, if you look at their energy consumption has soared 3 times, 4 times, and we are one of the highest competitive advantage over any other competitors like US, China, Europe. So our energy cost is very much competitive right now. So also in terms of energy consumption, our cost of getting the energy to help manufacturing is competitive other than other country, major country across world. So this is another
Again,
to
one
be added.
question to the investors. So China has the world highest coal reserves, but still China import coals. Who is their major coal supplier? Who supplies the major coal to China? In recent time, they are in the news. There are a lot of issues. So any one of you can type here. Shantanu, sir, wonderful. Yes, it's Australia. Correct. And now India is also importing coal from Australia. So we are no surplus now because of the domestic demand and also the plan going on further. And if see when you are power surplus, in a way that indicates that you are not industrially developed. So if you are an industrially developed country, you cannot say that I am power surplus. So that is a kind of a dilemma. I mean, Chandu, you can correct me, but that is
No, no,
my
absolutely.
understanding. That
Yeah.
So
like in West Bengal, they always says that we are power surplus because there is no industry. So
okay.
it is just like that. But good thing is that government is very concerned about this, and we are planning to develop the global largest solar grid, and we are developing lot of solar parks, and we are utilizing those unproductive land areas where we can at least plant the solar manufacturing units like Kutch and many of the portion in the third deserts in the western part of India. Simultaneously, there is a plan so that we can use the hilly areas as well, at least where the sunlight is ensured, because hilly areas, the major challenge is that the rainfall and the cloudy weather and all this stuff. At least those areas where at least sunlight is ensured, the government is now setting up big solar manufacturing units there. So India will be going to get connected with the world's largest solar grid, and that's why there are a lot of diplomacies going on, because there would be two key units of the entire solar nodes. One would be very close to the Andhra Pradesh, and from there on, it will supply the power, solar power, um, ASEAN countries as well as the Middle East countries. Simultaneously, there would be another unit will be set up near African, I can't remember the name of that country, but that will supply for the Atlantic related countries as well as the Pacific region. So that's how the plan is. But yes, government is very much concerned about the power shortage going further, since the manufacturing is taking a northward step. Yeah.
Okay,
Chandu,
so on
over to
the
you.
capital market now, that is the third factor of production. Capital. Okay, Chandrasekhar, you can tell it.
No, exactly. I just wanted to add one more thing here. Like India started their solar journey. Before that, we had like wind power, majorly contributing to the renewable energy. But then solar we started, and then we started slowly because everything in solar is solar panel. We have to import from China. The government wanted to cut down that, so they started setting up, plants at Hyderabad and across India to supply, within the country. And now since we are started manufacturing it, you will be amazed to see like we producing solar energy at 2 rupees 44 paise per unit. This has happened 2018, I believe 2018, yeah, 2017 and or 2018, where the government changed its policy to reverse auctioning, and then we had a cheap renewable energy source available. Though it's to the consumer it's going up, and it's not 2 rupees 44 paise, but then for producer it is that what they started bidding on to the government projects. And as we going ahead with the electrical vehicles and other things, think that the amount of energy that we need for even domestic consumptions, forget about the industry, for domestic also we need to have that backup to support ev initiative that is happening in India and across the world. So that's that, yeah.
Okay, so on capital market, so you can see that there is a huge increase in raising capital. So our capital market, you can see IPO is coming. So right now, the last 2020 to 2025, just 5 years, we are the companies are able to generate lot of capitals like 6.85 trillion in Indian currency, and it was, even if you go back to last 5 years back, it was 3.95. It's already doubled. And if you look at one of the important thing of a capital for the debt market, your cost of your financing should be on stable. Now, if you see that the two graph over here, the blue is the Indian base rate, and the Fed rate is the below the light blue. It is little volatile from 2019 to 2024. Now, the volatility in the base rate is not a good for debt financing, and that is very challenging. And but whereas if you look at our debt blue line, that the cost of debt is quite stable, and if it is stable, that means that there is a free flow in the market has a stability, and the economic growth and the capital market is much better. Yes, anyone have any question? स्टॉक के बारे में बाद में बात करेंगे, स्टॉक के लिए वेट करो, we'll talk about the stock. Okay, stock को बाद में, अभी industry analysis. Sorry. Now entrepreneurship is the fourth factor of production. Yes, Chandrasekhar, you can add.
Exactly. So no, we have seen like the India is like uh, here at Gurgaon. I'm based at Delhi, Gurgaon. So we have a society called Camellias, where your one apartment will cost you more than 50 crores. So why I'm bringing this example, because in that society all of the the startup founders are there. So they started anything, and then once they raise money they have like enough money to afford these things. And that is why more than 60-70% of the society owners are the startups. So I'm not talking about the legacy business owner, but the startup owners. So this is land for startups. At one point of time we were talking about Silicon Valleys in India, and now in India also we have like companies that is coming up all the way to do it. People are leaving jobs. I am seeing partners at big fours are setting up their own business and doing things and stuff, or helping startup firms to do. So the entrepreneurial journey is up on the rise. And see the numbers. If 2016 you see like 452 numbers, and then 2023 it's going in lakhs. So this is the multiplier impact. And you see, if the number is increasing so big, then how much value those companies have been created, how many jobs, how much produce they have did and make. And that will be translating on everything, the amount of money they have attracted from capital markets or anywhere, and stuff like that. So you
Now,
see that things, right?
now we're going to talk about the government initiative. And government is the biggest player in the stock market. Remember this one. If government want, they can pull any industry. They want, they can down any industry. So like it happened with the specialty chemical. It is doing well, very fast, growing all the stock after COVID, and then suddenly government think that this sector is doing very well. Let's take cut down all the subsidies. And what happens? Most of the chemical industry, specialty chemical industry stocks are very much struggling. Some of them are doing well, but right now government is backing manufacturing. And let's see how what are the initiatives are there. Yes, to the second slide.
Exactly. So, Saikat, you just given an example of a specialty chemicals. The pigment is one of them. Now, what is happening? I told you earlier. Once the kid is started walking, you leave his hand, he will fall down. But then again, he will start walk and run. Now, what will happen if your automotive sector is growing? You need that industrial paints there, right? The pigments. So the chemical industry is producing the pigments, and that pigments being used there. So one space the market is growing. Now you have to step up, do some struggle, and then you good to compete with the industry. And that is what happening there. So if you see here, the government is there to support sectors. And we talked about before that the government is there to support electric vehicle industry with the subsidiaries. There is different PLI schemes are going on all across. Semiconductor industries are taking benefit of that. So these are the areas where they are getting support from the government today. But then certainly in point in time, once the government will see they can do their own, their all the uh, apart from everything, the things will be getting a standard and they able to compete, then the government will certainly will start little bit of slowing down. Now talk about see the amount here, the 2.5 trillion outlay we are talking about. If that much of money is there to support, uh, how much it will translate to the economy, to the GDP. And look at the allocation where it's going. The semiconductor ecosystem, semiconductor, like 50-60% of the semiconductor, the world top country is Nvidia, but they are not manufacturing it. It's Taiwan, TMSC is manufacturing the world 60-70% of the semiconductor. One company in the world, they are supplying 60% of it. And that is what India wanted to do. They have like Tatas, and let's refrain the names here, but they have companies setting up there, and the government is giving it the allocation. Why you see like 31% into this industry? This is literally a capital intensive business. You have like thousands crores you need to set up one small setup, so that your semiconductor environment is there. And there you have like all sort of uh, chips that can be developed, and it will be in a very much clean atmosphere. that they need. So highly capital intensive business, and that is why the industry by themselves cannot do it. Even in Taiwan, the government were earlier there to support, and they have done it
Yeah.
to grow
So
that TMSC company
okay,
there.
just run through this one. You guys you can check. So some of the project come into the state like Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh, Odisha, Assam. So I don't want to read everything. It's pretty simple. We are not going in detail. So now further, this are you can see over here, special economic zone, the corporate tax is also coming down. So earlier it was very expensive. Now, right now, government is also helping on the corporate tax. Those who are manufacturing in special economic zone, they're getting tax cuts. So things are being always in the positive side for the manufacturing, entrepreneurship, and industry. And this is why we see that there is a huge potential now. Chandrasekhar is tracking the geopolitics. Chandil has tracking geopolitics on various aspects. Now, manufacturing will also be impacted. Now, I asked Chandil to explain a little bit on this one. Why the geopolitics also favoring Indian manufacturing as well.
Yeah, so basically, you can aspire to be a good manufacturing hub, but the geography need to support that. And that's why if you see the historically from the prehistorical era, prehistory, I would say that pre-World War era, the who were the manufacturing hub. So London or England was the manufacturing hub because they have the easy supply chain management. They have the vicinity towards the global most famous trade route, and raw material supply was spotless. So that's why they became the manufacturing hub. You can argue with me that India, they are capturing India, so they are just extracting all the wealth from India, all the resources from India. But that helps them to have a cheap raw material sources, but they have to carry all these things to Great Britain, right? So that is one of the reason. China become the manufacturing hub because they have the wide sea face. So transportation, logistics management is not a problem to them. Similarly, Vietnam is the strong competitor now for India, and that is also because of their location. And India is now focusing on that. So India has the benefit of being in a very favorable world trade route. So many of you are now familiarized with the Indo-Pacific terms, right? So now the Indo-Pacific terms are being coined just because that Indian Ocean will be the most busiest trade route going further for next 50 years. It has already started. Now in the next 50 years, that is the most busiest trade route. Earlier, it was the North Atlantic region, so the trade route from US to Europe, but now that has shifted to Indian Ocean, and India dominates the Indian Ocean. Now, that triggers a lot of peripheral activities. So you might have seen that Prime Minister visited multiple countries. And when Prime Minister visits, there are a lot of discussion related to trade and commerce, and trade and commerce discussion eventually leads into either signing of MOU, or MOU is memorandum of understanding, okay, or it is signing of a FTA, so free trade agreement. Now, pre-WTO era, that many of you knows that world economy was more or less very compartmentalized. There was no free flow of the goods and services, and there was no standardized legal bindings for the countries to maintain the laws. Mostly it was driven by the law of the geography, the licensing and all this stuff. But post WTO era, since there is a global order in terms of goods and services movement, and simultaneously multiple countries have their agreement, those are centrally managed. There is a international court of justice, they have their trade and commerce wing where you can get the justice again any trade related agreement breach or whatever happens, that you can go to that court and you can get your compensation. So that more or less streamlined the entire supply chain management, trade and commerce agreement, the export-import kind of fraternity, very much under a proper umbrella, required cover, as well as there is a rule of law, I would say, was there. But now that sometimes drives into a lot of additional hazards, because the smaller countries with their to some extent not so competitive economy, they face challenges because it is open trade, right? So open trade means for your domestic producers or domestic manufacturers, you cannot safeguard their interest. So that's why multiple countries are actually bypassing the uh, laws of WTO, and then they are putting a lot of tariffs, a lot of duties and all this stuff. Now, that to some extent creates some challenges in terms of true the philosophy of free trade across the globe. And that benefit China has got from US, because US gradually shifted all their manufacturing units to China, maybe for many other reasons what Chandu have already said. But in addition to that, that China, there was a complete no tariff, no taxes was offered to international investors for 25 years. And that actually allured everybody along with other incentives. So India have seen that. India have learned from that. There are multiple trade associations. So there is an I think RAFTA something I can't remember right now for the association for ASEAN countries, but there the rules and the terms and conditions were more favorable to China. That's why India was not part of the trade agreement. However, India preferred to go for bilateral trade agreement with multiple countries. And recently, you have seen that India actually have the free trade agreement with Lima countries, mostly the Sweden, Norway, and then all these Scandinavian countries. India do have the free trade agreement. India have the free trade agreement with Switzerland. India have the free trade agreement with some of the ASEAN countries, with Malaysia. Recently, there was a free trade agreement signed. Then India was in discussion with UK during the Rishi Sunak's time, that free trade agreement with UK. With European Union, India already have gone through, the deal is completely matured now. It will be just a few terms and conditions. They're just settling in for the European Union. So India has a planned free trade agreement with a bilateral basis with lot many countries. And you can see over here that the trade agreement, India is not lagging behind, rather they are the ahead. So people understand the potential. People are agreeing with the goods and services movements. India opens their market. However, India, since you need to abide by the laws, so you can open your market, that will hamper your domestic manufacturing and service industry. So that's why you need to make them competitive. And for the competitiveness, you need to have this free trade agreement, because free trade agreement not only gives you the opportunity to trade over those countries in a lesser tariffs and goods are almost negligible, but simultaneously they also comes in. But India here is doing what? So they are focusing for those markets where the competitive advantage Indian companies may have. We have gone long ways. So you can remember we have signed the GATT agreement in 1992, and we have crossed a long way. Now our industry is to some extent matured. Whatever the industry we have, those are matured industry. Competitive level with China, those are separate discussion altogether, but at least those are matured industry. They have the technology, they have the capability. Pricing obviously depends on the laws of the land and the tariffs and goods and tariffs and the duties of those particular countries. But now free trade agreement actually gives the opportunity to Indian companies to explore in those market with ease. For pharmaceutical industry, you all know that there are a lot of legal patents laws of the drugs control laws, and so many laws, FRDAs in US. So there are so many laws. So India is trying to create this free trade agreement with many countries so that they can bypass all these, and it would be ease in business. Okay, so that drives the FDIs. So foreign direct investment. Now, many of us, when we look into the market, we look at the FIIs, DIIs, right? So we say that FIIs, DIIs drives the market demand and supply and all this stuff. But for an economy, FIIs, DIIs is not going to boost the economy. It can boost the capital market for some time, but the real boost in an economy coming from the FDI. And India is focusing more on the FDI, though I would say these numbers are there. But if you see it properly, India is 1/3 in terms of FDIs finally landing in India in comparison to China. And India is just running neck to neck with Indonesia and South Korea. So we are gaining the FDIs, but you can see the figure. Even Vietnam is higher than India. So comfort is yet to achieve, but there are a lot of FDIs should come. China plus one policies benefit. We have not been able to take into the fullest because majority of those are actually shifted to Vietnam. India is trying hard, but still there are some challenges on the ground that actually not gives us that much of a benefit of the free flow of FDIs in our economy. Okay, so that is an area of concern, but still it is coming in. The flow is on the growth trajectory, so we can be hopeful for that. Next slide, Saikat. Yeah, and then finally, the global supply chain shifted. It is getting shifting, and that's why you have seen that lot of corridors are being discussed, lot of trade agreement, trade paths, trade routes, trade association has been formed. G20 was a classic example that India was being made part of the two major, very important trade route. Those are going to take place in the future, though now there is a looming war and all these tensions and everything, but it will not sustain for long. The demand would be there and this corridor will happen. It may get delayed for some time, but that will make India a very important hub of global supply chain, because those trade routes are actually either originating from India, or India is a very important hub of that trade route. And that creates a tremendous opportunity for many companies in our country, many industries in our country. We can take participation there, we can push there, we can increase our acceptance, and obviously that those are the silver lining here.
So let me come to the case study now. इतना तो मैंने हम लोग बात कर चुके हैं इतना देर से, तो कुछ ग्राउंड रियलिटी में हो रहा है कि नहीं वो भी तो देखना चाहिए ना. सो लेट्स टॉक अबाउट द इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स. सो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स में अगर देखोगे मोबाइल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग 2017 में वी हैव 900 इलेक्ट्रॉनिक बिलियन प्रोडक्शन हुआ था. Now right now it is has been gone up to 3500. So it's a 4x increase by IT hard work may 2x increase by. So if you look at over here or electronics products, we have increased in 10 years, even 7 to 10 years span of time has multiplied by 2 to 3 times. So last 3 years you can see over here 5 years में हम लोगों को कितना growth हुआ है. These are the new addition. अभी इसका आगे बात करेंगे. Okay, so now mobile में अब if you see the mobile manufacturer, we are earlier the importer. Mobile में अगर देखोगे, this is the import happened earlier. Now we are exporting mobile. So this is what, and the import has declined. We export some. It has simultaneously increased by 74% CAGR से growth हो रहा है. Decline हो रहा है mobile में 21% से growth हो रहा है. Decline हो रहा है. Now what we are shifting to our this will be the global hub of manufacturing very soon in India. These are the signs. So जो मैंने study कर रहा हूँ उसमें ground reality क्या है उसके बारे में हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं. Now study number 3, if you see over here, making India defense में. Defense में पहले क्या था, by global their product are good, more reliable. Now shift to make in India. See over here, it has been growing and defense stocks has rallied because of that. So you can see over here, this is the growth rate. Case number 3. Now case number 4, automobile. India will going to be the major automobile hub. So GPPL जो इसके बारे में shipping पोर्ट के बारे में बोला था. So this GPPL will be the automobile, वहां से सबसे ज्यादा एक्सपोर्ट होगा. Now if you look at over here 13.7% CAGR से 2 years एक्सपोर्ट हो रहा है. And Indian export or 4-year export हो रहा है आपका 8.6, and it will going to grow very soon. So this is happening in India. So whatever we have told manufacturing, it is actually translated into a reality, and it will going to be grow even going forward. So these are the some of the headline you can see over here. And now I'm not going to discuss in detail. You have already seen some of the things in your so any question do you have? So how many of you have liked this session, this type of session? I asked Chandrasekhar to give his time, valuable time. So how many of you enjoy this session? If you enjoy this session, please type enjoy in the chat box. How many of you enjoy this session?